Ransomware, it's one of the most disruptive forms of cyber attack in our modern world. It's a threat that operates quietly, strategically, and, as we've seen, with absolutely devastating consequences.
We all see the headlines. Critical infrastructure. Things we rely on every day, suddenly paralyzed. Businesses brought to a complete standstill. These aren't just technical glitches. They're targeted attacks that affect real people and our most essential services.
So, beyond the headlines, there's a very clear systematic process behind these attacks. And understanding that process, well, that's the first real step to defending against it. So let's pull back the curtain and break down exactly how these things unfold from the inside.
We're going to walk through the entire life cycle. First, we'll look at the attack chain itself. Then, we'll dive into how it spreads across a network, what the surprisingly sophisticated business model behind it looks like, and finally, how you can build a truly strong defense.
It all starts with what we call the attack chain, a series of very deliberate steps an attacker takes to compromise a system and ultimately to force a payment.
So, there are really 4 key stages here. It begins with the initial infection. But after that, the malware moves into a quiet reconnaissance phase, scanning the network to find key targets. Next comes encryption, where files are locked. And finally, the attack hits its endgame, extortion, when the demand for a ransom is made.
Ransomware rarely just appears from nowhere. It needs a way in. And very often that way in is through a simple human error. Someone clicks a bad link in a phishing email or opens a malicious attachment. Or it could be a technical oversight, like a server that was never updated for a known vulnerability.
Now here's something that's absolutely critical to understand. Modern ransomware is patient. Once it gets a foothold inside a network, its first move isn't to attack. Its first move is to listen and to learn. It operates in stealth, gathering intelligence long before it ever makes a sound.
So during this reconnaissance phase, the malware is basically mapping the network with one clear goal: maximize the damage. It's looking for connected servers to spread to, it's actively hunting for backup systems so it can destroy them, and it's trying to find administrator privileges to get full control. It will even look for security tools just so it can disable them, clearing the path for its final assault.
Okay, so once that quiet reconnaissance is complete, the encryption phase begins. This is really the heart of the attack. Ransomware uses incredibly powerful cryptographic algorithms, the same kind that are used to secure legitimate banking systems, to lock files, making them mathematically impossible to open.
Now the method here is deceptively brilliant. First, the malware creates a unique one-time key to encrypt all of your data. But then, and this is the crucial part, it encrypts that key with the attacker's own public key. The result is kind of like a digital lockbox that only the attacker has the key for. They hold the only thing that can unlock the key to your files, and that is how they create their leverage.
And with all those files locked down tight, the attack shifts from being purely technical to psychological. A ransom note appears on the screen. It explains what just happened and demands a payment, almost always in cryptocurrency, and usually with a ticking clock to create a sense of urgency.
But today, encryption is often just one half of the threat. A lot of attackers now practice what's called double extortion. Before they encrypt anything, they quietly steal a copy of the most sensitive data. So now, the threat isn't just about getting your data back, it's about stopping it from being leaked to the entire world. So how does a single compromised machine lead to an entire organization being taken offline? Well, the answer is a process called lateral movement.
Once an attacker is inside a network, they don't just stay put. Using the credentials and the system knowledge they gathered during that reconnaissance phase, they start moving from one computer to another. This is lateral movement, a silent expansion of their control across the whole network.
And the ultimate goal of all this movement is to reach the organization's most critical assets: its core databases, its main file servers, and, most importantly, its backups. Because if the backups are connected to the network and they can be encrypted, the victim loses their very last line of defense. And this brings us to a really critical realization about what we're facing. This isn't just about a piece of malicious code. This is about a highly organized, professional criminal industry. That's why we have to stop thinking of ransomware as some simple virus. It's not. It's a professionalized ecosystem, complete with its own supply chain, built for one thing and one thing only: profit. This ecosystem often runs on a model called Ransomware as a Service, or RaaS for short. In this model, very skilled developers create the malware, and then they rent or sell it to less technical criminals, we call them affiliates, who then go out and launch the attacks.
This model drastically lowers the barrier to entry for cybercrime.
I mean, just look at this supply chain. It shows you how specialized this industry has become. You've got developers who just write the code. You have affiliates who just deploy it. There are even professional negotiators who handle all the communication with victims and operators who manage the cryptocurrency payments. Each role is a distinct piece of a much larger criminal enterprise.
So given this incredibly complex threat, how in the world do organizations defend themselves? Well, the answer isn't a single solution. It's a strategic, layered approach.
There is no magic bullet here. Effective cybersecurity relies on a principle we call layered security, or sometimes defense in depth. The idea is pretty simple. If one layer of defense fails, another one is right there behind it to stop or at least slow down the attack.
These layers start with the absolute fundamentals, keeping systems patched to close known vulnerabilities, filtering emails to block phishing attempts, and using multi-factor authentication to protect credentials. But defense goes deeper. It includes things like network segmentation to actually block that lateral movement we talked about, preventing an attacker from spreading. And maybe most importantly, it means keeping backups completely offline and isolated, ensuring there's always a clean copy to restore from, no matter what happens.
At the end of the day, the key thing to remember about defense is this: ransomware is not magic. It succeeds by finding and exploiting a chain of small, predictable gaps. One unpatched server, one reused password, one successful phish. It's the alignment of all these individual weaknesses that creates a catastrophic failure.
Ultimately, understanding how ransomware actually works doesn't eliminate the threat. Of course not. But what it does do is transform it from some unknown fear into a measurable problem. And once a risk can be measured, it can be managed.